TB is a really big problem globally. With 1.5 million people dying every year, we need to do something. I'm Tanya Parish and I'm a microbiologist. I work on tuberculosis drug discovery. Tuberculosis is a major global health problem. There are more than 1 million people that die every year from tuberculosis, and there's more than 10 million people get tuberculosis every year. The bacteria that cause TB are spread by the respiratory route, so just anybody coughing or sneezing or laughing or even singing, if they're infected, they will spread it, you'll breathe it in, and it gets into the lungs. Tuberculosis is quite a complex disease, so you can have different forms of the disease. There's active TB, where the bacteria are multiplying, you have a cough, you have all of the symptoms, weight loss, night sweats. And then we have a latent form of the infection where the bacteria are still infecting, they're still there, but they're not multiplying very quickly, and you don't have the symptoms. But the problem of the latent infection is that at any point, if your immune system becomes a little bit compromised, then you get reactivation. What's really difficult about getting rid of tuberculosis as a disease is this latent infection. And also that can persist for decades, and people have been known to be latently infected for 50 years or more. Bacterium that causes tuberculosis is Microbiologist tuberculosis. So it's very resistant to most of your common antibiotics, and even those that do work against it have trouble penetrating inside the cell and killing the organism. TB is really difficult to treat because the treatment is combined of 4 different drugs, and you have to take them for 6 months. So you can imagine that's a pretty hard task for anybody. It's hard to say exactly how many pills you would have to take for the whole regimen, but I can only demonstrate that by saying if I cut my hands like this and fill them with tablets, that would be 1/10 of the treatment you would have to take. Well, we see the rise of not just multi-drug resistant, but totally drug resistant and completely drug resistant TB. So that means that there's very little option to treat. TB treatment is bad enough that it takes 6 months with 4 drugs, but when you go to a drug-resistant TB, you're now talking about 18 to 24 months with second-line drugs that aren't as effective, and also you need to have injectable drugs as well. So it's a really hard treatment for a patient, for a person to take for that length of time. So that means that we desperately need new drugs, things that will work against drug-resistant organisms and things that will work more quickly so that it reduces the burden on the patient as well as cures the disease. If we want to eradicate TB, we have to have vaccines and drugs and diagnostics.